First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk with us about XP League and everything you do. And I will just want to ask you first, what is XP League, and can you give us sort of a rundown about yourself and XP League as a organization?
Sure. XP League is a youth esports organization similar to Little League or recreational soccer or any other traditional youth sport. But instead of balls, bats, nets, whatever, we trade them out for mice and keyboards. We're a franchise, so each one of our locations is independently owned and operated. And so they're building their own teams, getting as many kids as they can in their market to come join and be a part of this. We're positive coach led, so all of our coaches get certified through the Positive Coaching Alliance. We actually created our own coach certification program in partnership with Next Level Esports, who they have some pretty impressive coach programs and training programs for collegiate and professional level coaches. And I mean, in a nutshell, that's essentially what XP League is. Our kids are in the 7 to 17 age range. We're all over the U.S. and Canada. We've got a few locations, but we focus in North America. And my background is, I've built a few businesses and sold them in the past. And now, I was more and more interested in how kids interact with each other and socialize through gaming. Saw a need for a structured way of having them do that. If anyone who's familiar with, obviously as a gamer, you get it, queuing up with a bunch of random folks sometimes isn't the best place for a kid. So we wanted to get some adults in the room to help create that structure and start building those positive life skills and core values that we really emphasize in our program.
Well, that's really great to hear, as of course, gaming has been on the rise these past few years, I think exponentially. And I think there's a generational gap between the, should I say, millennials and the Gen Z kids and Gen X. So are you looking to fill the generational gap left in the 90s, early 2000s generation that still does not, that are now going to have kids born in the late 80s, early 80s, and they don't really understand gaming as a whole? So are you trying to fill that generational gap and fill them in on how their kids should consume video games and, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue that age group and the parent group, a lot of them are the first gen gamers. I mean, I'm probably on the older end of our spectrum of people who grew up with, the Nintendo first, NES came out when I was a kid. So I played on that, but I had, Super Nintendo and 64, things like that. I was, GoldenEye is kind of the big first multiplayer first person shooter. And I think I was 19 when that came out. So if that puts some perspective on age, but it's not just filling a generational gap. It's building a way for kids and parents to speak the same language, and it allows the parents to meet the kids on their level. One of the most rewarding things that I have in my life are those moments and times that I get to spend gaming with my kids, because it's where they live and it's what they, it's where they get to be great, and they see themselves as great, and I get to come in and be a part of it, and they get to, I spend all my time teaching them about life and what to expect, and in those moments, they're the teachers. They get to teach me about what we're doing and how that works. So it's really great to see the parents, who may be skeptical at first when they come out and think of, really, do I want to have my kids playing more video games? It's just more screen time. What's the value in this? And then, reconnecting with them after a season or two of their kids playing and hearing them talk about, their kid fragging out and, just using terms that you just like are blown away that, man, this guy, like, 2.5 months ago was telling me his kid was spending too much time on the computer and he really just was bringing him in to make friends. But he found a way. The kid finds a way to build confidence, make friends, build a community, but also the parents start to get involved and meet their kids where they are and build those relationships.
Well, yeah, I myself, I'm on the younger side, and I've met people older that began connecting with their children through games and hearing those terms, using fragging out, getting top frag or top score on the on scoreboard. It's fun to hear. It actually makes me happy to hear. And seeing your league, XP League, and organizations that are similar, I think are very beneficial for society as a whole currently, because kids spend a lot of time playing games, but they do not, I think, connect with people outside of the 25 inches that they stare at.
Yeah.
So I think the connecting the parents and the children and creating this sense of community is very good, and I think it's very commendable. But why would someone choose XP League outside of that? Outside of that, connecting with creating community, trying to connect parents and kids, create an environment. What is the mission that XP League has? That are you trying to create new professionals or new just gamers in general?
Yeah, we're building a place. Essentially, it's a team for all gamers, right? So any kid who is looking to that games and is looking for either community, building self-confidence, learning life skills, just wants to get better at the game, wants to be a big competitor, just wants to play for fun. They all have a place at XP League, and that's all part of our vision and our mission. And we have kids. I mean, we have structured tiers where we've got kids who are just recreational and they come out and they play for fun, and they're not too stressed about winning. They're learning how to be a good teammate and having fun and building confidence, and the parents start seeing that. And so that those are the values. The other side of it is we're in person, so these kids are in the same room, so they're also learning positive habits around gaming, because one of the biggest issues I believe that we have in multiplayer games is toxicity. It's a tough place. I mean, it's a really tough place to be a woman. It's like, I've talked to girls who game and play, Call of Duty is obviously a horrible one. And they use voice changers because it's so toxic. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to fix that by educating this generation of, understanding that, listen, on the other side of that mouse and keyboard and monitor is a kid just like you, probably, right? And so when you're competing against other kids just like you. Just because you're hiding behind this veil of anonymity, and then the veil of your gamer tag, that doesn't change the feelings and the emotions of the person on the other end of that. And so having them play together, come together in person, on a team, it really adds a lot of value in the way the kids start to behave and to interact and to start learning those values. Because it really is, again, we're coach led, but it's all about positive coaching and it's values driven.
Well, yeah, of course. It's good to hear that you're fighting toxicity. I think the esports side of things is very, very toxic. Of course, it's a competitive environment. Every competitive environment is going to have toxicity. But I think online gaming, the anonymity of the things, etc., very much creates a sense that on the other side, there's no one. It's just a screen. It's just a character. You can say to them whatever you want. But creating that community is, I think it's very, very important. Well, mentioning toxicity, and of course, I think there are a few titles and video games that are that stand out a lot in this regard. Which games do you focus on, especially because, of course, I think you said that League of Legends is not part of the program. Our site focuses Leaguefeed on League of Legends, but do you have anything else more to say on what games you guys play actually, and what are your plans for League of Legends itself?
Yeah, so we would love to have more players who play League. So if your readers and folks who are on this are on the under 17 age range, man, we would love to have them find the closest XP League and get started and join a team, because right now we've got a handful of teams, not enough to run a season just yet, but all of our coaches, it's the most commonly requested thing to do is to really emphasize pulling up League and getting more folks involved in gaming on League. But right now, our games that we play, we offer Valorant, Fortnite, Rocket League, Apex Legends, and Overwatch 2. So those are our current offering. The most popular right now, I'd say, are Fortnite and Valorant.
Well, yeah, Fortnite is all the craze with the kids these days, as they would say. But um, just today, League of Legends, I mean, Riot Games announced they are closing their North American Challengers League. That was their developmental league. Does XP League have a plan on trying to step into the market of developing actual pros, or just simply focusing on developing pro players, building them from the ground up, as for example some soccer club would in their youth development divisions?
Yeah. So we have some partnerships with some pro teams, and we've looked at academy programs and building things out. So there's the potential in the future for that to exist. I can't say whether we'll get there or not, but right now we're really just focused on building great players who, if the kids on the higher end of the spectrum that compete, we try to pair them up with colleges and universities. So when they're old enough and go off to college, that they've got scholarships and a place to play. So that's something that we've been really focusing on lately. On the pro side, we've had, I kept saying when we started the company that the first kids who go pro, that'll be like a huge feather in our hat. We've had 3 kids sign pro contracts so far in Rocket League, which was really cool. And then we've had some other kids who are competing in tournaments, place really highly and do really well in some of the Fortnite tournaments and things like that. So it's exciting to see that. Is that our mission? Is that our only goal? No, not at all. I mean, that's, we're focused on helping all of the kids. And so, that like 10% of 1% that can, that have what it takes to go pro, that's not our main focus.
Well, yeah, getting to the pro leagues or the big leagues is a great leap ahead, and not everyone is cut out for it. But I think that we are seeing more and more kids inclined to go pro, and that will lead me into the next question. You mentioned that you're one of the earliest gaming generations, and that you've experienced gaming from the very start, should I say, from the console era, from the first and second generation consoles up until today. How do you see the gaming industry today compared to what it was over the past 20, 25 years, and how do you think it will change in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So looking at the growth, I mean, obviously in North America, year after year, I mean, just in the last 5 years, in North America, esports has grown significantly, where you look at Valorant Challengers and Valorant, the VCT League in North America was, I mean, like huge viewership, and that game's only 2 years old. It's interesting to see. When I started the company, I used to have on my original pitch deck when we were putting ideas together, about 3 years ago. I had a slide that showed all the colleges in the U.S. that offered scholarships. Well, I can't have a slide like that anymore because it's over 300 plus. There's so many schools that have gotten involved, and so the landscape in the U.S. for competitive gaming has really blossomed and continues to increase. And so if you asking where do I see the future going, I think the CEO of Netflix in his letter to shareholders in 2019 mentioned that he was more afraid of Fortnite than he was of HBO Max. And I think that's an interesting way to think about it. I mean, I've 14-year-old and 11-year-old, and their world isn't, they watch some TV, but really they watch Twitch and YouTube and they game. Mm-hmm. And that's the world that they live in. And so as they grow up, gaming is it's at the forefront of everything they do. And competitive, I mean, my son can tell you more competitive gamers and streamers than he can tell you, soccer or football players.
Well, yeah, of course, the rise of the digital world is very much taking place in front of our eyes. You've more and more organizations and even governments are now stepping into the digital sphere, especially gaming, which has, I believe, earned around $170 billion this last year. So many organizations coming in, so many organizations, and both schools, governments, as I've said, corporations, etc., want to get their slice of gaming. And what organizations or partners are primarily involved with XP League? You've mentioned some big teams, professional teams that you guys are signed with. I saw Alienware, I believe. So can you elaborate more on how you cooperate
Sure.
with your partners?
Yeah. So Alienware actually sponsored our big event last year. It was North American Final. So we're not actively involved with Alienware. They just came in as a sponsor of a big in-person event that we have. So the way that our seasons work throughout the year, the kids compete. We have splits all year long where the kids are competing, but then it culminates in a regional tournament where the top place kids in the regional tournament go to a large final event, and we actually hold that at Full Sail University. We take over almost the whole campus in terms of their production capacity and facilities. We're the largest esports event at Full Sail. We're going to be there again this year. This year we've got MSI HyperX supporting us. We've got Perifio, who's going to be our PC sponsor. And so we try to work with a lot of the OEMs in the space. You think about kids in our age range, we're exposing them to the things that the brands that they're going to, love and get become. This is where they start building loyalty and building allegiance. So a kid who starts playing on a Logitech G is always going to want to play on that, right? So it starts building out those opportunities. With pro teams, we work with Ghost Gaming. We work with Dark Zero. We're partnered with Parabellum, but Parabellum has had a bit of a pause on their they've been suffering through the esports winter, and they put their team is still competing, I think, but like their entire operations have been put on furlough, so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, then in terms of like other partners and companies that we work with, I mean, obviously, we try to interact really well with the publishers and do what we can on that end as well.
Well, it's nice to know that you guys are looking to branch out as always and to connect with as many gamers and organizations as possible. Of course, connecting with the youth through youth organizations is the best tactic. And you've mentioned that for now you guys are cooperating and spreading your franchise across the U.S. and Canada. Are you looking to significantly expand into other continents, for example, Europe or perhaps even Asia, that is right now the biggest probably emerging gaming community that will ever?
Sure. I won't say we'll never do it, but we we got to get. I mean, there's still a lot of white space in the U.S., and so we're heavily focused in North America and continuing that. At some point, perhaps we'll expand out into the UK, into Europe, but right now we're putting all of our effort into North America.
Oh, that's I'm sort of sad to hear that. I myself am from Europe. I very much have a few candidates of my own that would go, I think, fit well or benefit from being a little educated on how online gaming
Yeah.
and presence should look like. You've XP League, to me it seems, is more focused on developing the youth than developing a gamer. So would you call
100%.
yourself a youth organization more than a gaming organization?
I mean, we're it's both. It's a youth gaming organization, right?
Oh,
So it's they're one and the same. Our focus is on developing these kids into the best gamers they can be, but also the best people they can be. So it's really, I think it's like you can't have one without the other.
Oh, of course, yeah. Um, Being a good person online, being influenced by the online space, and still being a good person is kind of thing hard for these kids today, especially with how the as I said, the online anonymity and toxicity of competitive environments is.
Sure.
Um, what else? XP League to me, I'd like to know if you guys are looking to create sort of a, should I say, championship. I know you guys hold tournaments, regional and both national, but I think it does it serve only to emulate the competitive environment, or are you genuine in your competitive sense?
Yeah, I mean, our North American Finals is a, I mean, it is a very competitive and well produced event. I mean, we're like, if you look for it on YouTube and you find some of the footage from the 2022 North American Finals. I mean, it is really, really well produced and shoutcasted, and the level of competition that these kids is really strong. I mean, the Rocket League kids, we have a kid that's is it a supersonic champion or whatever that, I forget. Supersonic legend. Yeah, that's what it is. Supersonic legend. We have kids who are, peak immortal, peak radiant, in Valorant. We have a kid who's top 500 in Overwatch. I mean, these are really, really competitive players, and they're playing with other kids that they play with regularly. Their teammates they play with regularly, and they build a really strong team dynamic. And with a good coach putting them in place, and these kids come out of it's really exceptional to see. I mean, it really is. And we've had pros and pro orgs attend and comment on just like how impressed they were with what we do and what we put on. We actually were nominated for a Tempest Award from the Esports Business Summit last year for the event, and we were shortlisted. We were one of the 5 finalists, so we're pretty excited about that.
Well, I was impressed with what I saw. Definitely, it makes me very excited because I've been a gamer for since I can remember, and I kind of feel jealous of the kids today that get to experience such a sense of community and not have to be kind of thrown into the wild
Yeah,
online
yeah.
and fend for themselves.
That's the most common thing we hear when I talk to somebody about this who's over the age of like 20 is, I wish I had this when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, we definitely wish we had this when I was a kid, especially in my country in Europe. It's kind of gaming never picked up steam until the last few years, let's say late 2010s. So that would have been very beneficial. But let me get back to League of Legends for a second because, of course, Leaguefeed focuses primarily on that. League of Legends has been lately looking to, I mean, since a few years ago, they're franchising their competitive scene. So they removed the smaller tournaments and just they removed their developmental league, and it seems to me that they're focusing more on, should I say, corporate interests and big organizations that can actually pay the $10 million fine, not the fine, the fee to
Franchise fee,
enter. Yeah, so they could enter into the league. So how does XP League see itself in helping create amazing stories, amazing, insane stories of the underdogs coming together and entering the competitive scene and making strides, just like Team Dignitas, for example, made so many years ago?
Yeah, well, that's actually pretty cool. So that's a great question, and I wish I had an answer for you in League of Legends speak, and I tell you about that. But really, where I can kind of like elaborate and talk to that is more in what Riot is doing with Valorant, and they just had this premiere beta where it was an open tournament to try to start feeding competitive play within the program, within the game platform, and then eventually hoping to start feeding their challengers, which eventually will feed the Ascendant League, which will eventually feed the VCT, and give kids and smaller orgs an opportunity to compete. And so I actually took one of our teams and worked with them and coached them through Premier, and in their division, I think there was 1,200 teams in their division. This is on the North America East platform, like 1,200 teams. Our kids came in 20th, and so I thought that was pretty damn good. And these
that's beyond impressive.
These are 13 and 14 and 15-year-old kids.
Well, that's good to hear. That's beyond impressive. It really goes to show how much you guys focus on bringing out the best in children and the youth, both the gamers and people. I think we are nearing the end of our, or should I say, the expiration of our time here. But for the end, I just wanted to ask you, what does the future hold for XP League? In short, do you see yourself growing into something very supranational, should I say, encompassing the entire gaming world and at least in the US? Yeah. And do you see yourself branching out of the traditional MOBA sphere? Here I mean Riot Games, Apex Legends, these popular titles. Do you see branching out in as many titles as possible, or just keeping to the very concise competitive scene?
Yeah, so the quickest answer on terms of like game titles and things like that, we're always gonna like stick with what kids are playing, and not we don't want to. Our sales pitch is to the parents. The kids are easy; they want to do it, and they're playing the game. So I don't want to try to have to sell them on a new game to play. But in terms of like where we see ourselves and what the future is, our vision and our goal is to be the youth, like the brand in youth esports. So, if in the US, if somebody talks about young kids playing baseball, they talk about Little League. Well, Little League, it doesn't just mean like little kids playing baseball. Little League is a trademarked, that's the name of the league. It's trademarked Little League. And so I want XP League to be synonymous with youth gaming. So that if our kids, when they apply to colleges and a collegiate recruiter sees that they played in XP League, that means something to them. If a coach coaches in XP League and then wants to go coach for a collegiate or professional team, they can list that experience with XP League and it'll mean something. And so that's the vision and the core idea of where we see ourselves going, and the goal of XP League in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, that is great to hear, and I surely hope that you succeed in this. I believe that what you're doing is very, very beneficial for the entire gaming world, especially in the US. The United States are kind of the global cultural exporters. So I think that any and all development of the youth in the US in terms of gaming will benefit us across the ocean over here. So I thank you for doing what you're doing, and I wish you the best in your work. And especially thank you for taking the time to come over and talk to us about gaming, the future of our youth, the future of esports, and I think that's about it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, man. Take it easy. It's great talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye.